Every small town has its fair share of local legends. They don't usually spread past the town's borders, and they almost never make it online. Ironic, considering I'm writing this now, but the locals know them by heart. I've heard plenty as a truck driver, but none ever seemed real. Except one, the story of the ghoul. I heard about it while driving through South Dakota. I was exhausted and the humidity was so thick it fogged up my windshield, so I decided to stop for the night in a tiny town called Abarge, about an hour from Custer and 3 hours from my destination. Tiny doesn't even cover it, 15 buildings total, mostly houses. The rest were a single restaurant with a bar, one church, and a gas station. Starving, I figured I'd risk the restaurant and try to grab some sliders at the bar. The door jingled as I walked in, and a nearly empty dining room greeted me. Only 3 people were inside: the bartender, a bald-bearded man who gave me a curious look, and a young woman sipping a labelless beer, who didn't even glance my way. Clearly, I wasn't exactly welcome, but hunger won out, so I ordered a beer and checked out the menu. "I haven't seen you before," she finally said. Her voice was a mix of roughness and warmth. Startled, I turned to her, trying to be polite. "I'm just passing through." "What brings you in here?" she asked. "The appetite of a horse." "I've been on the road for 11 hours, I joked. She giggled. "You're funny." I ordered another beer and she signaled to the bartender. "Rico, should we do it?" He grunted and went into the kitchen. She turned to me, her eyes bright with excitement. "We have a tradition here. Everyone who drinks at the bar has to tell a story. With only 23 people living here, we're always dying to hear something new." I wasn't exactly interesting, but I wanted to be polite. So I told them about the first time I saw the ocean, embellishing the details to make it more exciting. The woman listened intently, her chin resting on her hands, her eyes glued to mine. After I finished, I placed a 20 on the counter and prepared to leave, but she stopped me. "You have a good speaking voice. Thanks for the story. I want to tell you one too." Exhausted but polite, I nodded for her to continue. "It's the same one I tell everyone who comes through here because it sticks with you the longest." The bartender's voice startled me. "The one about the ghoul again?" "Yes, sir, unless you've got a better idea." He stayed silent. She began her story. The ghoul was a local ghost story about a pale, long figure that haunted those who heard its tale, speaking only one word at a time, haunting them until they died. I listened, entertained but skeptical. "You want to know how you can be sure the ghoul is after you?" she asked. "How's that?" "It makes you see things. Things that aren't really there but feel real." It sounded like a bad trip or a scare tactic. As she finished, I decided to call it a night. "Well, I'm gonna call it a night. You folks have a good one." Her smile faded, and she stared blankly at me. I walked towards the door. "Hey, one question before you go." Sighing, I turned. "Yeah, what's up?" "You can see me, right?" I blinked, puzzled. Yeah?" She sipped her drink, then said, "Well, good night." Confused, I left, walking towards my motel. Her story lingered in my mind. Why was that the story she told travelers? To scare them into staying? After brushing my teeth, I tucked in for the night. A knock at the door woke me at 3 a.m. Groggy, I ignored it, hoping whoever it was would go away. The second knock was louder, more urgent. I jumped out of bed and laid on the floor, hoping the door wouldn't give way. The pounding stopped, replaced by shuffling and a whispered word, "Open." My heart pounded. The voice was neither male nor female. Holding my breath, I stayed put. "Please. Open." Every word sent adrenaline through me. Whoever it was, I wasn't about to open the door. I lay there for what felt like hours until the footsteps faded. Relieved, I got up to grab my phone. The bathroom door, open when I went to bed, was now closed. The pounding from the other side sent me scrambling for my keys and phone. As I fled, I heard a calm, chilling voice behind me, "No." It repeated, chasing me. I bolted to my truck, jumping into the driver's seat. Something hit the door. I turned and saw a twisted face with baseball-sized eyes and a gaping mouth, devoid of features. It spoke without moving its mouth, "See me?" I jammed the keys into the ignition and floored it, not breathing until the town was a faint light in the distance. Exhausted, I could barely keep my eyes open. Glancing to the left, I saw it still there, its head centered in my window, smiling. It repeated in a low, haunting voice, "You see me?" It continued for hours until dawn broke, and it vanished with the morning light. Arriving in Dupree, I sat smoking a cigarette, shaken. The factory supervisor knocked on my window, concerned. "You okay?" "My guy said you didn't look so hot." Clearing my throat, I managed a smile. "Long night. Barely got any sleep." "How far away were you?" "I was up in Eerie. Odd little town." He looked puzzled. "Eerie? I've never heard of it." Expecting a joke, I showed him my delivery app marking my stop. His concern deepened. "I've hunted out there. There's nothing but woods for miles." As his words sank in, a chill ran down my spine. Had I imagined it all? Or was the ghoul's legend terrifyingly real? It pointed at me with a red-tipped finger. "We will meet again." "Yes. I know it. For you, there are still many things to see." I closed my eyes, tears welling up. The lights turned off. I opened my eyes, prepared for horror. They found me passed out in the office. In each patient's room, only corpses remained. One without legs, another without eyes and tongue. Miss Margaret was missing her fingers. I've been locked in my cell for days. They say I killed them all, that there was no monster. The company testifies against me, saying I went crazy. They claim it had to be me because the placebo group wouldn't hallucinate. When I was around 10, my dad worked nights, so it was just me, my mom, and my siblings most of the time. I liked to sleep in my parents' bed when it was just me and my mom. One night, I woke up around 3 or 4 in the morning to someone banging on our front door. To set the scene, When you enter our house, there's a hallway that leads to the bedrooms. The kitchen is right beside the front door, so you can almost see the whole front door from inside. At first, I was scared out of my mind. I even pinched myself to check if it was real. The knocking wasn't hard or frantic, it was like someone actually expected us to open the door. After about a minute of this, I finally mustered the courage to get out of bed. I moved slowly toward the door, the knocking continuing the whole time. I was about to wake my mom up, but first, I wanted to see who or what it was. So, I crept into the kitchen. I had to crawl around so the person outside couldn't see me. I peeked through the window and saw a tall guy dressed in all black. When I turned to leave the kitchen, he started tapping on the window. I knew he could see me, but I had my back turned. I started screaming and crying, completely frozen in place. In seconds, my mom ran to me, asking what was wrong. I explained through my sobs. Of course, by the time my mom looked, the guy was gone, probably scared off by my screaming. But I always wonder why he was knocking on our door and what would have happened if he had gotten in. My heart was pounding, and I could barely catch my breath. My mom hugged me tight, trying to calm me down. She kept saying it was probably just someone lost or confused, but I wasn't buying it. I mean, who knocks on a door that late at night and then just disappears? The next day at school, I couldn't focus. I told my best friend, Jess, about what happened. She was freaked out too, and we spent the whole lunch period coming up with theories about who the guy could have been and why he was at my house. When I got home, my mom had already called the police to report what happened. They came over to take a statement and look around, but they didn't find anything. The officer said it was probably just a prank or someone who got the wrong house, but I wasn't so sure. For the next few nights, I couldn't sleep. Every little noise made me jump. I started sleeping with my phone right next to me, just in case I needed to call for help. I even made a plan with my siblings about what to do if the guy came back. We were all on edge. A week later, my mom installed a security system with cameras around the house. I felt a bit safer, but the fear was still there. Every time I walked past the front door, I'd get a chill down my spine, remembering the sound of that knocking. It's been years since that night, but I still think about it sometimes. I still wonder who that guy was and what he wanted. Was it really just a mistake, or was there something more sinister going on? I'll probably never know, but that night changed me. It made me more aware of the dangers out there and more cautious about who I trust. In the end, I'm just glad my mom was there to comfort me and that nothing worse happened. But I'll never forget the fear I felt that night or the sound of that relentless knocking echoing through the house. It pointed at me with a red-tipped finger. "We will meet again." Yes. I know it. For you, there are still many things to see. I closed my eyes, tears welling up. The lights turned off. I opened my eyes, prepared for horror. They found me passed out in the office. In each patient's room, only corpses remained. One without legs, another without eyes and tongue. Miss Margaret was missing her fingers. I've been locked in my cell for days. They say I killed them all, that there was no monster. The company testifies against me, saying I went crazy. They claim it had to be me because the placebo group wouldn't hallucinate.